Emily Carter had 48 hours before becoming Mrs. Someone she'd never met. The wedding dress hung in her closet like a prison sentence, white silk mocking her from behind plastic. Her parents had planned everything: the venue, the flowers, the rest of her life. They showed her one photo of her future husband, a blurry profile at some charity gala, his face turned away from the camera. "Daniel Brooks," they said. "Perfect match." Emily stared at that photo for hours, searching for a reason to stay. She found none. So at 2 a.m. on a Tuesday, she ran.
Quick pause. Before we continue, tell us, where in the world are you watching from? If you're enjoying these stories, make sure to hit subscribe, because tomorrow's episode is absolutely mind-blowing.
The bus station smelled like burnt coffee and broken dreams. Emily sat in the corner, her designer handbag stuffed into a grocery bag. Her hair dyed from golden blonde to mousy brown in a gas station bathroom. The transformation had taken 3 hours and cost her the last shred of her old identity. She looked at her reflection in a compact mirror. A stranger stared back. The ticket agent barely glanced at her when she paid cash for a one-way trip to Millbrook, a town she'd kicked by closing her eyes and pointing at a map. Random, untraceable, safe. The bus departed at 6 a.m. and Emily watched New York City disappear through dirty windows, each mile putting distance between her and the life she was supposed to live. She'd left a note on her pillow. "I'm sorry. I can't marry someone I don't love. Please don't look for me." Simple? Cowardly, perhaps, but honest in a way she'd never been allowed to be. Millbrook appeared through morning fog like something from a postcard. Small shops with faded awnings, a church with a crooked steeple. Streets empty except for an old man walking his dog. Emily stepped off the bus with $3,000 in cash, a fake ID that said Emma Wilson, and absolutely no plan. She found Rosewood Inn by accident, walking past it 3 times before noticing the "Help Wanted" sign in the window. The building was old but charming. Brick walls covered in ivy, window boxes filled with flowers that had seen better days. Emily pushed open the door, a bell chiming overhead. The lobby was small and warm, furnished with mismatched furniture that somehow worked together. A fireplace dominated one wall, unlit in the summer heat. Behind the reception desk sat a woman in her 50s, glasses perched on her nose, silver hair pulled into a messy bun. "Help you?" the woman asked without looking up from her paperwork. "The sign," Emily said, her voice smaller than she intended. "You're hiring?" Mrs. Patterson finally looked up. Her eyes were sharp, assessing, but not unkind. She studied Emily for a long moment, taking in the cheap clothes, the obviously fresh dye job, the desperate edge of someone running from something. "Receptionist position," Mrs. Patterson said. "Minimum wage, room included in the attic. No questions asked." Those last 3 words made Emily's throat tight. "I'll take it." Mrs. Patterson nodded slowly. "You got a name?" "Emma," Emily said quickly. "Emma Wilson." "Well, Emma Wilson, who's definitely not running from something, welcome to Rosewood Inn. You start tomorrow. Rooms up those stairs, 3rd door on the left. Lock's broken, but nobody here will bother you. Bathroom shared, hot water's temperamental. And if you hear scratching in the walls, it's just squirrels." "Probably." Emily wanted to cry from relief. Instead, she nodded. "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet," Mrs. Patterson said. "You haven't survived a weekend shift." The room was tiny. A single bed, a dresser with a mirror that made everything look slightly green, a window that overlooked the street. Emily sat on the bed and felt it sag under her weight. The springs squeaked, the wallpaper was peeling in one corner. It was perfect. She'd spent her entire life in a bedroom the size of this entire floor, with a walk-in closet bigger than this building. She'd had everything except freedom. Now she had nothing except this squeaky bed and peeling wallpaper, and for the first time in 26 years, Emily Carter felt like she could breathe. Her phone buzzed, 37 missed calls from her mother, 15 from her father, 6 from her sister. Text messages scrolled past. "Where are you? Come home. You're being ridiculous. The Brooks family is threatening to sue. You're ruining everything." Emily turned off the phone and shoved it in the dresser drawer. That life was over. The first week was harder than Emily expected. Her hands, soft from a lifetime of manicures, blistered from scrubbing floors. Her feet ached from standing all day. She never made coffee for anyone but herself, and she burned the first 3 pots so badly that Mrs. Patterson banned her from the machine until she watched a YouTube tutorial. "You've never worked a day in your life, have you?" Mrs. Patterson asked on day 3, watching Emily struggle with the ancient reservation system. Emily froze. "Is it that obvious?" "Sweetheart, you tried to tip me yesterday in my own hotel." Mrs. Patterson's voice was dry, but not cruel. "But you're trying, and that's more than most rich girls who come through here do." "I'm not," Emily started, then stopped. There was no point lying to someone who clearly already knew. "How did you know?" Mrs. Patterson tapped her temple. 30 years running this place, you learn to read people. The way you hold yourself, the way you apologize to the vacuum cleaner when you bumped into it, the fact that you have no idea how to make a bed with hospital corners, even though you tried really hard to pretend you did." Emily slumped against the desk. "Are you going to tell anyone?" "Tell them what? That Emma Wilson works here and minds her own business?" Mrs. Patterson shrugged. "Everyone's running from something, honey. At least you're running towards something better. That's more than most can say." By the end of the first week, Emily's hands stopped blistering. She learned how to make coffee that didn't taste like motor oil. She mastered the reservation system and even figured out how to charm the computer repairman into fixing the printer for free. She fell into a rhythm. Wake up at 6 a.m., shower in lukewarm water, make coffee for early guests, check people in and out, answer phones, clean rooms when the housekeeping staff called in sick, collapse into bed at midnight. It was exhausting. It was mundane. It was the happiest she'd ever been. The guests were mostly traveling salespeople and families on budget road trips. They didn't look at her like she was a prize or a business arrangement. They looked at her like she was just Emma, the friendly receptionist who remembered their coffee orders and asked about their day. On day 8, everything changed. He walked in like he owned the place, which was ironic because he actually could have bought it with his pocket change.
Daniel Brooks checked in at 3 p.m. on a Tuesday, and Emily's hands froze over the keyboard. She'd memorized his face from that single blurry photo her parents had shown her, even in bad lighting at a charity gala, even turned away from the camera. She'd studied every pixel, trying to find something, anything about the man she was supposed to marry. But the photo hadn't prepared her for him in person. He was tall, with dark hair slightly too long to be corporate appropriate, and tired eyes that looked like they'd seen too many hotel rooms. He wore a suit that had already loosened his tie, and there was something in the way he moved that suggested he was uncomfortable in expensive clothes. He smiled when he approached the desk, and it was genuine, not the practiced smile Emily had seen on countless faces at society parties. "Checking in," he said, his voice warm. "Reservation under Brooks." Emily's throat went dry. She forced herself to look down at the computer screen, at the name typed there. Daniel Brooks, room 205, 2 weeks. "Yes, Mr. Brooks," she managed, her voice steadier than she felt. "Welcome to Rosewood Inn." He pulled out his wallet, and Emily noticed his hands. They weren't soft like the businessmen she'd known her whole life. There were faint scars on his knuckles, calluses on his palms. Working hands. "Is that coffee I smell? Or is it too late in the day to ask?" "It's never too late for coffee here," Emily said automatically, then added, "I just made a fresh pot. Help yourself." Daniel grinned. "You're an angel. The last 3 hotels I stayed at had coffee that tasted like sadness." Emily couldn't help but laugh. A real laugh, not the polite tinkling she'd been taught at finishing school. "I promise ours only tastes like mild disappointment." "Honest, I like that." Daniel took the room key she offered. "I'm gonna guess you're Emma." She blinked. "How did you... nameplate?" he said, pointing to the handwritten tag Mrs. Patterson had made her. "Plus, I saw you through the window when I parked. You were arguing with the printer."
Emily felt her cheeks heat. The printer started it. They usually do, Daniel said solemnly. Then he grabbed his suitcase and headed toward the stairs, pausing at the coffee station to pour a cup. He took a sip, made a face, and turned back to Emily. You lied. This definitely tastes like profound existential despair. I'll work on it, Emily called back, and his laugh echoed through the lobby as he climbed the stairs. When he disappeared from view, Emily let out a breath she didn't know she had been holding. Her heart hammered against her ribs. That was Daniel Brooks, her runaway groom, the man she was supposed to marry in, she counted quickly, 40 days. He didn't recognize her. Of course he didn't. Her parents had said the families kept the engagement private until the wedding, that Daniel's family wanted discretion. She'd assumed that meant he'd at least seen her photo, but apparently not. Or maybe the brown hair and cheap clothes were enough of a disguise. Either way, she was safe. For now. That first night, Daniel came down to the lobby at 11 p.m. Emily was doing paperwork, pretending to do paperwork while actually reading a mystery novel hidden behind the ledger. She looked up when she heard footsteps on the stairs. Can't sleep? Daniel ran his hand through his hair, making it stick up in odd directions. He'd changed to jeans and a faded college t-shirt. Time zones, he explained. My body thinks it's 2 a.m., which means my brain thinks it's time to reconsider every life choice I've ever made. Sounds exhausting. You have no idea. He dropped onto the worn sofa across from the reception desk, spreading out like he owned the place. You work late shifts a lot? Usually midnight. Mrs. Patterson handles days, I handle nights and weekends. Emily closed the ledger. Most guests don't come down at this hour. I'm not most guests. Then he winced. That sounded douchey. I meant I have insomnia. Hotels are already weird for sleeping and my brain won't shut off. What's it thinking about? Emily wasn't sure why she asked. She should keep her distance, avoid conversation, definitely not engage with the man she had literally run away from marrying. But something about the late hour and the empty lobby made it feel like they were the only two people in the world. Daniel sighed. Honestly, I'm thinking about how I'm supposed to find someone. Emily's stomach dropped. Someone? My runaway bride, he said with a bitter laugh. Can you believe that? We were supposed to get married, arranged by our families, very old school, and she just vanished. No one knows where she went. My family's freaking out, her family's threatening legal action, and I'm supposed to track her down like some kind of Victorian novel protagonist. Maybe, Emily said carefully. Maybe she had a good reason for running. Maybe. Daniel stared at the ceiling. Or maybe she's just selfish. I don't know. I've never met her. We were supposed to meet at the altar, which is insane when you say it out loud. That is pretty insane, right? What kind of person agrees to marry a stranger? But my family, they're old money, very traditional. Business mergers, family alliances, all that dynasty bullshit. And I'm supposed to be the sacrificial lamb. Emily clenched her hands under the desk. You could say no. Could I? Daniel's voice went quiet. My grandfather built our company from nothing. My father expanded it. My older brother was supposed to take over, but he died 3 years ago. Car accident. So now it's me, the spare son who was never supposed to matter. And if I don't do this, if I don't marry the right girl and secure the right partnerships, everything my family built falls apart. That's not fair to you, Emily whispered. Life's not fair, Daniel shrugged, but there was pain in his eyes. Sorry, I don't know why I'm dumping all this on you. You probably have your own problems. Everyone does, Emily agreed. But sometimes it helps to talk to a stranger. True. Daniel smiled, and it transformed his face. You're easy to talk to, Emma. Has anyone ever told you that? Emily's heart did something complicated. Not recently. They talked until 2 a.m. Daniel told her about his business, tech security, which explained the scarred hands from building his own prototypes. He'd started the company in college, sold it for millions, and now his family expected him to merge it with the Carter empire to create some kind of tech finance supercorporation. The Carter family, Daniel said with disgust. They're everything I hate about old money. Entitled, manipulative, treating people like chess pieces. And I'm supposed to marry their daughter and pretend it's romantic. Emily bit her tongue so hard she tasted blood. The worst part is that I don't even know what she looks like. My parents have a photo but won't show me. They think if I see her, I'll track her down and, drag her to the altar. Like that's something a sane person does. Maybe you should let her go, Emily said quietly. Daniel looked at her for a long moment. Maybe, he said finally. But then I'd be letting my family down. Again.
He stood, stretching. I should try to sleep. Thanks for listening, Emma. You're good people. Emily watched him climb the stairs, each step feeling like a weight on her chest. She was good people. She was also a liar and a coward who was lying to his face. The next morning, Daniel came down for coffee and smiled at her like they were old friends. Emily smiled back and hated herself a little bit more. This became their routine. Daniel worked during the day, meetings in town, phone calls in his room, laptop sessions in the lobby. At night, he'd come downstairs and they'd talk about everything and nothing. Books, movies, childhood dreams, favorite foods. Emily learned that Daniel had wanted to be a musician, but his family shut it down. That he still played guitar, but only when alone. That he'd built his first computer at age 12 and his first security system at age 15. That he was allergic to shellfish and once ended up in the ER after a business dinner where he was too polite to mention it. Daniel learned that Emma had grown up in a small town, lie, loved old movies, truth, had a complicated relationship with her family, understatement, and was terrible at sports but once won a regional art competition, truth, one of the few genuine things about her old life she actually missed. On day 15, Daniel brought her coffee. I noticed you always make it for everyone else, he said, setting the cup on her desk. Figured you deserved one made for you. Emily stared at the cup. You didn't have to. I wanted to, he grinned. Fair warning, I'm worse at making coffee than you are. This might taste like catastrophic despair. It tasted perfect. Emily realized with a sinking feeling that she was in serious trouble. By week 3, Emily looked forward to Daniel's late-night visits more than she wanted to admit. He'd claimed the worn sofa as his spot, and she'd stopped pretending to work when he came down. They just talk, easy and natural, like they'd known each other for years instead of weeks. Tell me something true, Daniel said one night out of nowhere. Emily looked up from the sketch she'd been working on. A habit she'd picked up again, drawing to keep her hands busy during quiet shifts. What? Something true about you. Something you don't tell people. Daniel's eyes were serious. I feel like I've been talking about myself for weeks. I want to know you. Emily's pencil hovered over paper. She should deflect, change the subject, keep the walls up. Instead, she heard herself say, I ran away from home. Daniel didn't look surprised. When? A month ago. My family wanted me to live a certain life, be a certain person. I couldn't do it anymore. Do they know where you are? No, and I want to keep it that way. Emily met his eyes. Does that make me a bad person? No, Daniel said immediately. It makes you brave. Most people spend their whole lives living for other people's expectations. You chose yourself. That's not selfish. That's survival. Emily felt tears prick her eyes. Thank you. For what? For not judging. Daniel smiled, soft and genuine. Emma, I don't know much, but I know you're probably the most real person I've met in years. Whatever you're running from, I hope you stay gone. Emily laughed wetly. That's terrible advice. I'm full of terrible advice. Ask anyone. He stood, stretched. I'm extending my stay, by the way. Another 2 weeks. Emily's heart jumped. Really? Yeah, I told my family I'm still looking for the runaway bride, which is technically true. I just haven't mentioned that I stopped looking weeks ago. Between you and me, I hope she stays gone too. She's probably living her best life somewhere, and good for her. When he disappeared upstairs, Emily put her head on the desk and tried not to think about how catastrophically complicated this had become. She was falling in love with her runaway groom who thought she was someone else entirely and had no idea that the girl he was supposed to find was serving him coffee every morning. This couldn't end well, but Emily couldn't make herself care. On day 28, everything Emily thought she knew turned upside down.
Telling and preparing this story took us a lot of time. So if you're enjoying it, subscribe to our channel.
It means a lot to us. Now back to the story.
Mrs. Patterson cornered Emily in the supply closet on day 28. "You're in love with him," the older woman said flatly. Emily nearly dropped the stack of towels she was holding. "What? No, I'm not." "Don't insult my intelligence." Mrs. Patterson crossed her arms. "You light up every time he walks in the room. You check the clock every night waiting for him to come downstairs. You drew his portrait in your sketchbook. Don't look surprised. I saw it when you left it on the desk." Emily's face burned. It's complicated." "Let me guess. He's the fiancé you ran from." Emily's knees went weak. She sat down hard on a box of cleaning supplies. "How long have you known?" "Honey, I figured out you were Emily Carter about 3 days after you showed up. I have Google." Mrs. Patterson's voice softened. "And I figured out Daniel Brooks was your would-be groom about 5 minutes after he checked in and gave his name. I was waiting to see how long it'd take you two idiots to figure it out." "He doesn't know," Emily said desperately. "He's never seen my face. The family's kept us separate." "So, what's your plan? Keep lying forever? Fall in love under false pretenses and hope it works out?" Mrs. Patterson shook her head. "That's not a foundation for anything real." "I know," Emily put her head on her hands. "But if I tell him, he'll hate me. He thinks the Carter family is everything wrong with old money. He thinks Emily Carter is some spoiled princess who ruined his life by running away." "And you think you're proving him right by lying?" Emily didn't have an answer for that. That night, Daniel came down at 11 p.m. as usual, but something was different. He was agitated, pacing instead of settling onto the sofa. His hair stuck up like he'd been running his hands through it for hours. "Bad day?" Emily asked cautiously. "My father called." Daniel's voice was tight. "He's threatening to cut me off if I don't come home in the next week, with or without the Carter girl." Emily's stomach dropped. "What did you tell him?" "I told him to go to hell," which probably wasn't smart. Daniel laughed bitterly. "God, why am I even doing this? Chasing a girl who clearly doesn't want to be found? Maybe everyone's right. Maybe I should just cut my losses, go home, and let my family's business collapse. At least then it'd be over." "Daniel." "I'm tired, Emma." Daniel finally stopped pacing, standing in front of her desk. "I'm tired of being what everyone needs me to be. My family needs me to be the dutiful son. My company needs me to be the genius CEO. This mystery bride needs me to be the guy who lets her go. And his voice cracked, "I just want to be me. Is that selfish? No, it's human." Daniel looked at him with such raw vulnerability that Emily forgot to breathe. "You get it. You actually get it. Everyone else in my life, they want something from me. But you just see me." He was standing too close. Emily could see flecks of gold in his brown eyes, could smell his cologne mixed with coffee, could feel the heat radiating from him. "Emma," Daniel said quietly, "I need to tell you something." "Okay," Emily breathed. "I think The front door crashed open. A woman swept into the lobby like a hurricane in designer heels. She was tall, blonde, perfectly made up, and wearing a dress that cost more than Emily made in 3 months. Behind her came a man in an expensive suit carrying a briefcase. Emily recognized them instantly. Her sister Victoria and the family lawyer. "There you are!" Victoria's voice could cut glass. "Do you have any idea how much trouble you've caused? Mother's had 3 breakdowns, Daddy's threatening to disown you, and the Brooks family—" She stopped, eyes landing on Daniel. Oh my God." Daniel looked between Victoria and Emily, confused. "Do you know her?" "Know her?" Victoria laughed, sharp and cruel. "She's my sister, the runaway bride you've been looking for." She turned to Emily with a vicious smile. "Hello, Emmy. Time to come home." The world tilted sideways. Daniel's face went through several expressions: confusion, disbelief, comprehension, and finally, betrayal. No, that's not... Emma's not... "Emily Carter," the lawyer interjected, opening his briefcase and pulling out documents. "Born April 15th, 1999. Daughter of Robert and Patricia Carter. Heiress to Carter Financial. And your fiancé, Mr. Brooks." He placed a photo on the desk. Emily's formal portrait. the same one from the engagement file. Daniel picked up the photo with shaking hands. He looked at it, looked at Emily, back at the photo. "The hair's different," Victoria said helpfully, "and the cheap clothes are new, but that's definitely my sister playing dress-up as a poor person." Emily couldn't speak, couldn't move. She watched Daniel's face shudder, all warmth draining away, until he looked like a stranger. "How long?" His voice was flat. "How long have you known who I was?" "Daniel, please, how long?" The shout echoed through the lobby. "Since the day you checked in," Emily whispered. The silence that followed was deafening. "You knew," Daniel said slowly, like each word hurt. "Every conversation, every late night, every time I told you about looking for my runaway bride, you knew, and you lied. I didn't mean to make me fall in love with you while pretending to be someone else." Daniel's laugh was hollow. "God, I'm an idiot. My whole life, people have lied to me, used me, manipulated me, and I thought you were different. I thought you were real." "I am real," Emily said desperately. "Everything I told you was true. The only thing I lied about was my name." "Your name, your family, your entire identity." "That's not one thing, Emily. That's everything." "Let me explain." "Explain what? That you've been playing some kind of game? Getting revenge on the family that tried to force you into marriage by making the groom fall in love with you? Congratulations, it worked." He turned and walked upstairs. His door slammed with such force that the windows rattled. Emily tried to follow, but Victoria stepped in her way. "Oh no, little sister, you're coming home now." "Get out of my way." "The engagement contract is legally binding. You have 48 hours to fulfill the terms or face a $20 million lawsuit for breach of contract. Your family will be financially ruined."
Emily's world narrowed to a pinpoint. "What? Daddy didn't tell you?" Victoria's smile was poison. "The engagement wasn't just a marriage arrangement. It was collateral for a business loan. If you don't marry Daniel Brooks, the Carter Empire goes bankrupt. You'll destroy 3 generations of our family's legacy." "You're lying." The lawyer placed another document on the desk. Emily scanned it with growing horror. There it was, in black and white, the engagement contract her father had signed using the marriage as guarantee for a $100 million loan from the Brooks family. If the marriage didn't happen, the loan was called in immediately. The Carter family couldn't pay it. "So, you see," Victoria said sweetly, "you don't really have a choice. You can marry Daniel Brooks and save the family, or you could run away again and let everyone you've ever known lose everything, including all our employees. What's the current count? 3,000 people who'll be out of jobs if Carter Financial goes under." Emily couldn't breathe. "This is blackmail." "This is consequences." Victoria picked up her purse. "We're staying at the Grand Hotel in town, the only place in this backwater that doesn't smell like mothballs. You have until Friday to make your choice. We'll see you at the wedding." "Oh, and Emily, maybe don't bother trying to explain to Daniel. He'll never trust you again anyway." They left. The door chimed cheerfully behind them, grotesquely out of place. Emily stood in the empty lobby, the sound of her sister's heels still echoing, and felt her new life crumble to dust. Mrs. Patterson appeared from the back office, where she'd clearly been listening. "Oh, honey, I have to fix this. I have to talk to Daniel. You have to think," Mrs. Patterson said firmly. "That sister of yours is a piece of work, and I wouldn't trust her as far as I could throw her. But that contract, that's real, isn't it?" Emily nodded miserably. "Then you've got a choice to make. And whatever you choose," Mrs. Patterson squeezed her shoulder, "make sure it's for you, not for everyone else." Emily looked up at the ceiling, at room 205 where Daniel was probably packing his bags. She'd found freedom for exactly 28 days. She'd found love for even less. Now she had to decide which one to fight for. But Victoria had lied about one crucial thing, and when Emily discovered it, the game changed completely.
Emily didn't sleep.
She sat at the reception desk staring at the contract until the words blurred together, searching for a loophole that didn't exist. At 3 a.m., she heard footsteps on the stairs. Daniel appeared with his suitcase. He'd clearly not slept either. His eyes were red, his hair a mess, his expression carefully blank. "I'm checking out," he said, not looking at her. "Daniel, please just let me explain." "There's nothing to explain. You lied, I fell for it, end of story." He placed his room key on the desk. "I'll have my assistant called to settle the bill." "I didn't mean to hurt you." Now he looked at her, and the pain in his eyes made Emily's chest ache. "That somehow makes it worse. You knew exactly what you were doing, Emily. You knew I was falling in love with you, and you let it happen." "Because I was falling in love with you too," the words burst out of her. "I didn't plan this. I didn't want any of this. I was just trying to survive. And then you showed up, and you were kind and funny and nothing like what I expected, and I—" Her voice broke. "I know I should have told you, but I was scared." "Scared of what?" "Of this," Emily gestured between them. "Of you looking at me exactly the way you're looking at me right now, like I'm the enemy." Daniel's jaw tightened. "You're not the enemy. You're just someone I don't know." "You do know me," Emily said desperately. "Everything I told you was real. My love for old movies, my art, my terrible coffee skills. That's all me. The only lie was my name. Your name, your family, the fact that you're the one person I was supposed to find and you let me look like an idiot searching for you." Daniel picked up his suitcase. "I have to go. My father's called a board meeting. I either come back engaged or I lose the company." "You don't have to marry me," Emily said quietly. "Let me figure out the contract. There has to be a way." "There isn't." Daniel's voice was hollow. "I had my lawyer look at it months ago when this whole arrangement started. It's ironclad. We either get married or both our families are destroyed." He finally met her eyes. "I just wish you'd trusted me enough to tell me the truth. Maybe we could have figured it out together." He walked out. The door closed behind him with a soft click that felt like a gunshot. Emily put her head on the desk and cried. Mrs. Patterson found her an hour later, still sitting in the same position, the contract tear-stained and crumpled. "All right," the older woman said briskly. "Enough wallowing. Tell me everything about this contract." Emily walked her through it, the loan, the collateral, the terms. Mrs. Patterson listened carefully, occasionally asking questions, her sharp eyes scanning the legal text. "This clause here," she said, pointing, "about the marriage having to be legitimate and entered into willingly by both parties. What does that mean legally?" "I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. But your sister is not a lawyer, is she? She just showed up with one." Mrs. Patterson pulled out her phone. "My nephew's a contract attorney. Give me a minute." She stepped into the back office. Emily heard her talking rapidly, the sound of papers being photographed and sent. 20 minutes later, Mrs. Patterson emerged with a strange expression. "Well," she said slowly, "this is interesting." "What?" "That clause. It's a standard protection in arranged marriage contracts. It means if either party can prove the marriage was coerced, the contract is void. No penalties, no lawsuits." Emily's heart jumped. "But Victoria said—" "Victoria lied," Mrs. Patterson said flatly. "Or at least she told you a version of the truth that benefited her. Yes, if you refuse to marry Daniel, there are penalties, but if you can prove you were forced into the engagement under duress, the whole thing falls apart." "My parents signed this willingly." "But did you?" Mrs. Patterson leaned forward. "Emily, did you ever actually agree to this marriage? Did you sign anything?" Emily thought back. "No, my parents told me it was happening. They never asked." "Then you have an out. You were a legal adult when this contract was signed, but you never consented. That's coercion." Mrs. Patterson smiled grimly. "Your family's been holding this over your head, but they're bluffing. If you fight it, they lose." Emily's mind raced. "But the money, the loan, is your father's problem, not yours. He made a bad business deal and tried to use you as a collateral. That's on him." Mrs. Patterson squeezed her hand. "Honey, you're not responsible for your family's choices. You never were." For the first time in 24 hours, Emily felt like she could breathe. "I need to tell Daniel." Yes, you do. But first, Mrs. Patterson's expression turned serious. You need to decide what you actually want. If this contract is void, you're free. You can disappear, start over somewhere new, never see the Brooks family again. Or, I can fight for him. Can you? Mrs. Patterson asked, gently. He's hurt, Emily. Really hurt. Even if the contract isn't an issue, he may not forgive you. Emily thought about Daniel's face as he left. The betrayal, the pain. The late-night conversations, the way he laughed at her terrible jokes, how he'd brought her coffee because he noticed she always meant it for everyone else. I have to try, Emily said. Even if he hates me, I have to try. Mrs. Patterson nodded. Then let's make a plan. Emily called Daniel 17 times. He didn't answer. She tried his hotel, the Grand, the same one Victoria was staying at, but they wouldn't put her through to his room. She even showed up at the lobby, but security escorted her out when she tried to get to the elevators. On the second day, desperate, she called the Brooks family office. The secretary was polite but firm. Mr. Brooks was in meetings all day and couldn't be disturbed. Tell him it's about the contract, Emily said. Tell him I found something important. I'll pass along the message, Ms. Carter. The line went dead. Emily wanted to scream. Victoria, of course, appeared at Rosewood Inn that afternoon, perfectly coiffed and smiling like a cat with cream. Having trouble reaching your fiancé? She asked sweetly. I heard you've been rather persistent. It's embarrassing, really. You lied to me, Emily said coldly. About the contract. I know I don't have to marry him. Victoria's smile didn't falter. Oh, Emily, always so naive. Yes, technically, you could fight the contract. You could drag it through courts for years, spent millions on lawyers, destroy both families' reputations in the process. By the time it's resolved, Daddy's business will be bankrupt anyway from legal fees. She examined her manicure. Or you could just do what you were supposed to do in the first place and marry the man. Is that really so terrible? You don't care about the family, Emily said. You just want me miserable. I want you to finally grow up and accept responsibility. Victoria's voice turned sharp. Your whole life you've been Daddy's precious princess. Everything handed to you, no consequences for anything. Well, welcome to the real world, Emmy. Sometimes we have to do things we don't want to do. Like you did? Emily shot back. Oh, wait, you've never sacrificed anything for this family. You just married your college boyfriend and let me take all the pressure. Victoria's face flushed. I earned my place in this family. You've just coasted on being the pretty one. Wow, Emily said flatly. That's what this is about. You're jealous? I'm realistic, Victoria snapped. You think running away made you brave? It made you selfish. Now be a good girl and show up at the wedding on Friday, or I'll make sure everyone knows exactly what kind of person you really are. She left in a cloud of expensive perfume. Emily waited until she was gone, then pulled out her phone and called Mrs. Patterson's nephew, the contract attorney. I need to know every option, Emily said. Every loophole, every technicality, and I need to know fast. He promised to call back within hours. Meanwhile, Emily had another idea. If Daniel wouldn't take her calls, maybe someone else would. She spent 3 hours researching the Brooks family, tracing connections and business relationships until she found what she was looking for. Sarah Brooks, Daniel's mother. Unlike her husband, Sarah had a public email for her charity foundation work. Emily wrote and deleted a dozen emails before settling on honesty. Dear Mrs. Brooks, you don't know me, though you've probably heard my name. I'm Emily Carter, the woman your son was supposed to marry.
I know I have no right to ask anything of you. I lied to Daniel and I hurt him badly, but I need you to know the truth about why I ran and what I've discovered about the contract our family signed. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm asking for a chance to explain. If Daniel never wants to see me again, I'll accept that. But he deserves to know everything before he makes a decision that will affect the rest of his life. Please, give me 10 minutes. That's all I need. Emily. She hit send before she could second-guess herself. The response came at 11 p.m. Rosewood Inn, tomorrow at 9 a.m. Come alone. Emily barely slept. She practiced what she'd say, threw out the practiced speeches,
decided to just speak from the heart. At 8:45 a.m., she was pacing the lobby when a town car pulled up outside. Sarah Brooks was nothing like Emily expected. She was in her 50s, dressed simply in slacks and a sweater, with kind eyes and Daniel's smile. She looked Emily up and down, taking in the brown hair and cheap work uniform. "You're younger than I thought," Sarah said finally. "And you look terrified." "I am," Emily admitted. "Good. You should be." But Sarah's voice wasn't cruel. "Show me this contract." Emily led her to the back office where she'd spread out all the documents. The original contract, her father's loan papers, the legal analysis from Mrs. Patterson's nephew. Sarah studied everything carefully, asking occasional questions that Emily answered as honestly as she could. Finally, Sarah sat back. "You realize your family has been lying to both of us." Emily blinked. "What?" "The loan terms. These weren't what we agreed to. My husband and your father renegotiated behind my back." Sarah's jaw tightened. "They inflated the penalties, added clauses that weren't in the original agreement. They made it so the marriage was the only option." "Why would they do that?" "Because they're both greedy, controlling men who see their children as business assets." Sarah's voice was bitter. "I told my husband that forcing Daniel into this marriage was wrong. He told me to stay out of business affairs. So I did, and look what happened." She turned to Emily. "Tell me why you ran." Emily took a deep breath and told her everything. The suffocating expectations, the loss of autonomy, the fear of becoming another Victoria. How she'd never meant to meet Daniel, never meant to fall in love, never meant to hurt him. "I know he'll probably never forgive me," Emily said, her voice breaking, "but I need him to know that what we had, those conversations, that connection, it was real. I wasn't pretending. I was more myself with him than I've ever been with anyone." Sarah was quiet for a long moment. Then, "He's devastated, you know. Not angry. Daniel doesn't do angry. He just shuts down. Goes cold. He's been like that since his brother died. Keeps everyone at arm's length because losing David nearly destroyed him." "I'm sorry," Emily whispered. "Don't apologize to me. Apologize to him." Sarah stood. "I can't promise he'll listen, but I'll get you in the same room. What you do with that chance is up to you." "Thank you," Emily breathed. Sarah paused at the door. "For what it's worth, I think you did the right thing running. I wish I'd had your courage when I was your age." Her smile was sad. "Maybe if I had, my son wouldn't be so afraid to trust anyone." She left. Emily collapsed into a chair, hands shaking. She had her chance. Now she just had to figure out what to say. Mrs. Patterson appeared with tea. "Went well?" "I think so, maybe. I don't know." Emily wrapped her hands around the warm mug. "What if I get in that room and he won't even look at me?" "Then you make him look," Mrs. Patterson said firmly. "You fought this hard. Don't give up now." The call came at 2 p.m. Brooks Estate, 7 p.m. tonight. Come to the service entrance. Emily spent the afternoon getting ready, changing outfits a dozen times before settling on simple jeans and a blue sweater, something that felt like Emma, not Emily. The Brooks estate was intimidating, all stone walls and manicured gardens. Emily felt like an imposter as she parked her beat-up car next to the Bentleys and Teslas. A staff member met her at the service entrance and led her through the kitchen, up the back stairs, to a small study. "Wait here," the woman said, and left. Emily waited and waited. After 30 minutes, she was starting to think this was a trap when the door opened. Daniel stood in the doorway. He looked exhausted, shadows under his eyes, his usual careful grooming replaced by rumpled clothes and 2 days of stubble. He stared at me like I was a ghost. "Your mother said you had something important to tell me. Make it fast." Emily stood, her prepared speech evaporating. "The contract's not what we thought." "I know. My mother showed me." Daniel leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. Congratulations, you found a loophole. You're free. I don't want to be free. I want to explain. There's nothing to explain, Emily. You lied. For months. Well, His voice cracked. Well, I fell in love with someone who didn't exist. She did exist. Emily stepped forward. Daniel, I know I lied about my name and my family, but everything else was real. Every conversation, every laugh, every moment. That was me, the real me. Not Emily Carter, heiress, not the girl in the formal photos, just me. How am I supposed to believe that? Daniel's eyes were hard. How do I know any of it was real? Maybe you were just playing a part, getting revenge on the family that tried to trap you. Is that really what you think of me? I don't know what to think. Daniel pushed off the doorframe, starting to pace. I thought I knew you. Emma, the receptionist who loved old movies and couldn't make coffee to save her life. Emma who listened to my problems and made me laugh and made me feel like maybe I wasn't alone in this messed up world. But Emma doesn't exist. It was all just Emily Carter playing dress-up. That's not fair, Emily said, anger flaring. You want to talk about playing roles? What about you, Daniel Brooks, the reluctant heir who pretends he doesn't care about his family's money while staying in cheap hotels and wearing old t-shirts? Is that the real you? Or is it just another performance? Daniel stopped pacing. That's different. How is it different? Emily challenged. We were both trying to escape who we were supposed to be. The only difference is I had the guts to actually run. You call lying to my face for a month gutsy? I call surviving gutsy. Emily's voice rose. I was 26 years old and my family was selling me like property. So yes, I ran. I changed my name, I dyed my hair, I took a minimum wage job and lived in a room with broken locks and temperamental hot water. And for the first time in my life, I was happy. Until you showed up and ruined it, Daniel said bitterly. No, Emily's voice softened. Until you showed up and made it better. Daniel, I fell in love with you. Not because you were my arranged fiancé, not because of some grand plan, but because you were kind and funny and real, and you treated me like a person instead of a prize. Past tense, Daniel noted quietly. You fell in love, not you love. Emily's breath caught. I love you, she corrected. Present tense. Even though you hate me, even though this is probably hopeless, I love you. Daniel closed his eyes. Don't. Don't what? Don't tell you the truth? Emily stepped closer. I should have told you who I was from the beginning. You're right, I was a coward, but I was terrified that if you knew I was Emily Carter, you'd see me the way you saw my family. Entitled, manipulative, everything you hated. And I couldn't bear that. So you let me make a fool of myself instead. You weren't a fool. You were perfect. Emily's voice broke. Every night when you came downstairs, every conversation, every smile, those were the best moments of my life. And I'm sorry I tainted them with lies. But I'm not sorry I met you. I'm not sorry I fell in love with you. Even if you can never forgive me, I'll never be sorry for that. Silence stretched between them. Daniel's eyes were closed, his jaw tight, and Emily could see him fighting some internal battle. I wanted it to be real, he said finally, so quietly she almost didn't hear him. When I realized you were her, Emily Carter, my runaway bride, my first thought wasn't anger. It was relief, because it meant you were the one, the universe or fate or whatever had brought us together anyway, and maybe that meant we were supposed to be together. Hope flared in Emily's chest. Daniel? But then I realized, he continued, opening his eyes, and the pain there made Emily's heart ache, that you knew the whole time. You knew we were supposed to get married, and you still let me stumble around in the dark. You let me tell you about looking for you. You listened to me complain about your family, and you said nothing. I was wrong, Emily whispered. I know. I was wrong. But Daniel, if I told you that first day, would you have given me a chance?
Would you have seen me as anything other than the girl who ruined your life by running away? Daniel was quiet for a long moment. I don't know, he admitted. Probably not. So what do we do now? Emily asked. I found the loophole in the contract. We don't have to get married. You can tell your family the deal's off. I'll tell mine, and we can both walk away free. Is that what you want? Emily's heart hammered. No, but I'll do it if that's what you need. What I need, Daniel said slowly, is time. To think, to figure out if I can trust you again. It wasn't a no. It wasn't forgiveness, but it was something. Okay, Emily said. Take all the time you need. She turned to leave, but Daniel's voice stopped her. Emma. She turned back. He'd called her Emma, not Emily. For what it's worth, Daniel said, I believe you. That it was real. I just don't know if that's enough. Emily nodded, not trusting her voice, and left. 24 hours before the scheduled wedding, everything came to a head in the most unexpected way.
Emily spent Thursday in a haze, mechanically going through her shift at Rosewood Inn while her mind spun in circles. Daniel had said he believed her. He'd said he needed time. But the wedding was scheduled for tomorrow at 2 p.m., and she still didn't know what was going to happen. Victoria had called 6 times, each message more shrill than the last. You better show up tomorrow or I swear to God, Emily. Her father had called twice, his voice cold. This is your last chance to do the right thing. Only her mother had been quiet. That worried Emily most of all. At noon, Mrs. Patterson found her staring blankly at the computer screen, the same reservation form open for 20 minutes. All right, that's enough. You're taking a break. She pulled Emily up by the arm. Come on, there's someone here to see you. Emily followed her to the lobby, expecting Victoria or the lawyer or some new disaster. Instead, she found Daniel's mother sitting on the worn sofa, looking completely out of place in her designer clothes. Mrs. Brooks, Emily said, surprised. I didn't expect... Sit down, dear. Sarah patted the cushion beside her. We need to talk. Emily sat, her stomach nodding. If this is about yesterday, it's about tomorrow. Sarah's voice was gentle but firm. Emily, I need you to understand something about my son. When Daniel's brother died, something broke inside him. David was the golden child, charismatic, confident, everything my husband wanted. Daniel was the spare, the one who could pursue his own interests because the pressure wasn't on him. Emily listened, her heart aching for the boy Daniel had been. When David died, suddenly Daniel had to be everything, the heir, the savior, the one who would continue the family legacy. And he tried. God, he tried so hard. Sarah's eyes glistened. But my husband never let him forget he was the replacement, the backup plan, not good enough on his own. That's horrible, Emily whispered. It is, and it's why Daniel doesn't trust easily. He spent 3 years being told he's not enough, that he needs to prove himself, that love and acceptance are conditional. Sarah took Emily's hand. So when you lied to him, even with good reasons, it confirmed his worst fear, that he's not worth the truth. Emily felt tears slip down her cheeks. I never meant... I know, but intentions don't erase impact. Sarah squeezed her hand. Now, here's what you need to decide. Are you willing to fight for him? Really fight. Because loving Daniel means dealing with his walls, his fears, his belief that everyone eventually leaves. It means proving every single day that you choose him. I want to, Emily said fiercely, but he asked for time. He did, and I'm telling you to ignore that. At Emily's shocked look, Sarah smiled sadly. My son will overthink himself into loneliness if you let him. He'll convince himself you're better off without him, that he's saving you from a mistake. Someone needs to fight past his defenses, and I can't do it. I'm his mother. It has to be you. What do I do? Tomorrow, at the wedding venue, show up. Not as Emily Carter, heiress, not as Emma Wilson, receptionist. Show up as yourself, whoever that is, and tell him exactly why he's worth fighting for.
Sarah stood. "And if he still pushes you away, then you let him go. But at least you'll know you tried." She left, leaving Emily with a decision to make. That evening, Emily called Victoria. "Tell everyone I'll be there tomorrow." Finally, showing some sense. "I'm not finished. I'll be there, but not for the reasons you think. I'm going to tell everyone the truth about the contract, about Daddy's manipulations, about everything. And then I'm going to give Daniel a choice. A real choice, without pressure or blackmail." Emily's voice was steady. "He can marry me if he wants to. Or he can walk away, and I'll deal with the consequences." "You're insane," Victoria hissed. "You'll destroy the family." "Maybe the family deserves to be destroyed," Emily shot back. "See you tomorrow, Vicky." She hung up before her sister could respond. Mrs. Patterson had been listening from the doorway. "You sure about this?" "No," Emily admitted, "but I'm doing it anyway." "That's my girl," Mrs. Patterson smiled. "Now, let's figure out what you're wearing. You can't save your love life in that uniform." They spent the evening plotting. Mrs. Patterson, it turned out, had been a seamstress in her youth. She pulled out her sewing kit and an old dress Emily had never seen. Simple, elegant, the color of midnight. "Wore this to my own wedding," Mrs. Patterson said, holding it up. 40 years ago. You're taller than I was, but we can make it work." They altered it together, Emily's unpracticed stitches next to Mrs. Patterson's expert ones. As they worked, Emily told her everything. Daniel's brother, his mother's visit, her plan for tomorrow. "You might lose everything," Mrs. Patterson warned. "I know," Emily threaded a needle. "But I still have this." She gestured at the small room, the half-finished dress, the life she'd built from nothing. "I still have me, and that's more than I had before I ran." They worked through the night. At 6 a.m., the dress was finished. Emily tried it on and barely recognized herself. Not the polished heiress, not the mousy receptionist, but something in between. Someone real. The wedding was scheduled at the Brooks estate. In the sprawling gardens behind the main house, Emily arrived at 1 p.m., an hour early, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might crack her ribs. The venue was beautiful. White chairs arranged in rows, flowers everywhere, a string quartet warming up. Staff rushed around making final adjustments. Emily slipped in through the service entrance, the same way she'd come 2 days ago, and made her way to the small study. She found Daniel there, sitting in a chair by the window, staring out into the gardens. He wore a tuxedo that made him look like a stranger, too formal, too put together. When he heard her enter, he turned and his eyes widened. "Emily." "Hi. I know you said you needed time, but I'm really bad at waiting." A ghost of a smile crossed his face. "I noticed. Your mother came to see me yesterday. She told me about David, about what you've been through." Daniel's jaw tightened. "She shouldn't have." "I'm glad she did, because now I understand. You think you're not enough. You think people will leave you or lie to you or choose something else over you. And I proved you right by lying about who I was." "Emily, let me finish, please." I took a breath. "You were right that I should have told you the truth from the beginning, but you were wrong about why I didn't. It wasn't because I was playing games or getting revenge. It was because for the first time in my life, someone saw me, really saw me, without all the baggage of my name and my family. You saw Emma and you liked her. Maybe even loved her." Daniel's eyes were intense. "I did. I do. And I loved being seen that way. But here's what I should have realized sooner. Emma and Emily aren't different people. They're both me. The girl who loves old movies and can't make coffee is the same girl who grew up in a mansion and ran away from her own wedding. I'm both. I'm messy and scared and brave and cowardly all at once." Emily moved until she was standing right in front of him, close enough to see the gold flecks in his eye.
You asked me yesterday if I wanted to walk away free. The answer is no. I don't want to be free of you. I want to be with you. The real you, not the heir or the replacement or the guy who thinks he's not good enough. I want Daniel who plays guitar when he thinks no one's listening. Daniel who brings people coffee because he notices they're tired. Daniel who told me about his dreams, even when he thought I was just a random receptionist who didn't matter. You mattered, Daniel said hoarsely. You always mattered. Then choose me, Emily whispered. Not because of a contract or family pressure or fate. Choose me because you want to, and I'll choose you back every single day for as long as you'll let me. Daniel stood, and suddenly they were inches apart. Emily could feel the heat of him, could see the war raging in his eyes. If I do this, he said quietly, if I choose you, I need you to promise me something. Anything. No more lies, even when the truth is hard. Even when you think it'll hurt me. I need honesty, Emily. Complete, brutal honesty. That's the only way this works. I promise, Emily said. No more lies. And I promise, Daniel said, to trust you, even when it's hard. Even when my brain tells me you'll leave, I promise to fight that and choose to believe in us. Is that a yes? Emily's voice shook. Are you choosing me? Daniel's hands came up to cup her face, gentle and sure. I chose you the day you made me that terrible coffee and laughed at my jokes. I chose you every night when I came downstairs just to see you. I chose you when I found out who you really were, and my first feeling was relief. His thumb brushed away at tears she didn't know had fallen. I'm terrified, Emily, but I'm choosing you anyway. Emily kissed him. It was soft and sweet and tasted like tears and hope. When they pulled apart, both were smiling. So, Daniel said, about this wedding in an hour. Right, Emily laughed. About that, I kind of have a plan. She told him. Daniel's eyes widened, then he started laughing, real laughter, the kind that shook his shoulders and made his eyes crinkle. You're insane, he said. Probably, Emily agreed. You in? Absolutely. At 2 p.m., the gardens were filled with guests. The Carter family on one side, the Brooks family on the other, business partners and society friends filling the gaps. Emily's mother dabbed at her eyes with a handkerchief, while her father looked smugly satisfied. Victoria sat in the front row, her smile sharp. The music swelled. Emily walked down the aisle in Mrs. Patterson's altered dress, carrying wildflowers from the Rosewood Inn garden instead of the elaborate bouquet the wedding planner had prepared. She saw her father's confusion, Victoria's anger, her mother's shock. But mostly, she saw Daniel at the altar, looking at her like she was the only person in the world. The officiant began the ceremony. When it came time for the vows, Daniel spoke first. Emily, he said, loud enough for everyone to hear, 3 months ago, our families arranged for us to marry. They made plans, signed contracts, decided our future without asking us. And that would have been the worst mistake of my life, not because of you, but because I would have married a stranger. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Emily's father half rose from his seat. Daniel continued. But then something crazy happened. I met you. Not as Emily Carter, heiress, not as my arranged bride, just as Emma, the receptionist who was terrible at making coffee and excellent at listening. I fell in love with you without knowing who you were supposed to be, and that's the best thing that ever happened to me. He turned to address the crowd. So here's the truth. The contract our family signed was based on manipulation and coercion. Emily never agreed to any of it. She ran away because she wanted freedom, and she deserves it. We both do. Emily's father stood. This is outrageous. Daniel, you're under contract. A contract that's legally void, Sarah Brooks said, standing as well. My lawyers have reviewed it. Emily was never a legal party to the agreement, and neither was Daniel. Our husbands signed away our children's lives without their consent. That ends now. Robert Carter's face went purple. You'll destroy both families. Maybe, but we'll be free.
He turned back to Emily, taking her hands. "So, here's my vow. I choose you, not because I have to, but because I want to. I choose to build a life with you based on trust and honesty and really terrible coffee. I choose to wake up every day and choose you again, if you'll have me." Emily was crying openly now, not caring about her makeup or the hundreds of watching eyes. "I choose you too," she said. "I choose to be brave enough to be myself, all of myself, the good and the messy and the scared. I choose to trust you with my heart, even though hearts are fragile and scary. I choose this life we're building, one choice at a time." She turned to the crowd. "I'm sorry to everyone who wanted a different ending, a neat business merger wrapped in white dress. But I'm not sorry for choosing love, real love, the kind you build, not the kind you sign a contract for." The officiant looked completely lost. "Should I continue?" "Yes," Emily and Daniel said together, then laughed. "Then by the power vested in me, and by your own free choice, I pronounce you married. You may kiss." Daniel kissed Emily like they weren't surrounded by scandalized society members and furious parents. He kissed her like they were back in the Rosewood Inn lobby at midnight, just two people who found each other against all odds. When they pulled apart, chaos erupted. Emily's father was shouting about lawsuits. Victoria looked like she'd swallowed glass. But her mother, surprisingly, was smiling through her tears. Sarah Brooks hugged them both. "Welcome to the family, Emily, the real family, not the corporate one." Mrs. Patterson appeared from the back, beaming. "Told you it'd work out." "You came," Emily said, surprised and delighted. "Wouldn't miss it. Someone had to make sure you didn't chicken out." She winked at Daniel. "You take care of my girl." "Every day," Daniel promised. They left the ceremony hand in hand, not waiting for the reception or the photographer or anything else the wedding planners had scheduled. They drove back to Rosewood Inn in Daniel's car, still in their wedding clothes, laughing and kissing at stoplights. "So," Daniel said, as they pulled up to the inn, "what now?" Emily looked at the small building that had become her sanctuary, then at Daniel, then back at the building. "Now," she smiled, "now we figure it out. Together. One choice at a time." "No plan?" "No plan," Emily confirmed. "Just us." "I can work with that," Daniel said, and kissed her again. Mrs. Patterson met them in the lobby with champagne in plastic cups. "To making your own choices," she toasted. "To making our own choices," Emily and Daniel echoed. Later, curled up together on the worn sofa where they'd had so many midnight conversations, Emily felt Daniel's chest rumble with laughter. "What?" she asked. "I was just thinking, if someone had told me 3 months ago that I would fall in love with my runaway bride while she was pretending to be a hotel receptionist, I would have said they were insane. And now? Now I'd say they're right. This whole thing is insane." He kissed her forehead. "But it's ours." Emily smiled against his chest, listening to his heartbeat. They'd both run from the lives they were supposed to live. They'd both hidden who they were, scared of being seen. But they'd found each other anyway. Not because of fate or contracts or family arrangements, but because they chose to. They chose honesty over comfort, love over expectation, each other over everything else. And that, Emily thought as she fell asleep in Daniel's arms on a lumpy sofa in a cheap hotel lobby, was the only kind of happy ending worth having.
The Rosewood Inn had a new co-owner. Daniel had bought in as a partner, not to change anything, but to preserve it. The lobby still had mismatched furniture, the coffee still tasted like mild disappointment, but now there were fresh flowers on the reception desk and new photos on the walls, candid shots of guests and staff, moments of real life captured honestly. Emily worked the front desk 3 days a week, not because she had to, but because she wanted to. The other days, she painted in the studio Daniel had set up in their apartment, downtown, the one they'd chosen together, with creaky floors and 2 small closets and a view of nothing special. Daniel's company had merged with a different tech firm, one he'd chosen. The Brooks family business had restructured without the Carter deal. It had been painful, but they'd survived. The Carter family had survived too, though the relationships were complicated. Emily's mother came to visit sometimes, slowly building a bridge. Victoria still wasn't speaking to her, but Emily had made peace with that. On this particular afternoon, Emily was at the front desk when a young woman walked in, looking scared and desperate, with a backpack and no luggage. "Do you have any rooms?" the girl asked, her voice shaking. Emily recognized that look, the look of someone running from something. "We do," Emily said gently, "and we're hiring if you're interested. The job comes with a room upstairs." The girl's eyes filled with tears. "Really? Really? No questions asked. I'm Emma, by the way. Welcome to Rosewood Inn." Lily introduced herself as Lily. Emily showed her the room, the shared bathroom with temperamental hot water, the tiny space that would be hers. "It's perfect," Lily whispered. Emily understood. She found Mrs. Patterson and told her about the new hire. The older woman nodded knowingly. "Another runner." "Another survivor," Emily corrected. That night, Daniel came to pick up Emily from her shift. He found her in the lobby, sketching, while Lily sat nervously on the sofa, clearly not ready to be alone yet. "Ready to go home?" Daniel asked Emily. "In a bit." She smiled at him, then at Lily. "Lily, this is my husband Daniel. Daniel, this is Lily. She just started working here." Daniel, recognizing the situation immediately, dropped onto the sofa. "Welcome. Fair warning, the coffee here is terrible, but the company's great." Lily laughed, a small, surprised sound. They talked for a while, easy and meaningless, until Lily relaxed enough to excuse herself to her room. When she was gone, Emily leaned against Daniel. "Was I that obvious when I showed up?" "You were terrified and trying desperately to hide it." He kissed her temple, just like her. "Think she'll be okay?" "I think she's exactly where she needs to be." Daniel stood, pulling Emily up with him. "Come on. Mrs. Patterson's making dinner and she threatened violence if we're late." They walked out hand in hand, leaving the Rosewood Inn glowing warmly in the evening light. Behind them, and a small room with peeling wallpaper and a squeaky bed, Lily unpacked her single bag and looked around at her new life. She didn't know yet that this place would save her. She didn't know about the love story that had unfolded in these halls, about the choices that had been made here, about the freedom that waited just on the other side of fear. But she would learn, just like Emily had. And somewhere in the lobby, a new story was beginning, one choice at a time.
Up next, 2 more incredible stories are waiting for you right on your screen. If you enjoyed this one, you won't want to miss these. Just click to watch and don't forget to subscribe.